Hello everyone, welcome to my Shogi channel. In the two-piece draw, the handicap giver, Uwate removes the rook and bishop. Although this gives the handicap taker, Shitate an advantage, it is still important for a beginner to learn specific strategy to defeat a high-ranked player. In this video, I will explain the two-pawn pushing through strategy that Shitate can use in the two-piece draw. Since Uwate attacks aggressively using their gold and silver generals, Shitate should use the advantage of having both the rook and bishop to break into Uwate's camp effectively. The key point to win in the two-piece draw is to prevent one of Uwate's gold or silver generals from becoming active. In an even game, it is good to play pawn to 2-6 to activate the rook. However, in this handicap game, Shitate should remember to play pawn to 4-6 first. Uwate moves the silver to 5-3, and if Uwate can then play pawn to 4-4, it weakens the effectiveness of Shitate's bishop. Therefore, Shitate must quickly play pawn to 4-5 to prevent Uwate from playing pawn to 4-4. Next, Shitate pushes the pawn on the third file to stop Uwate from playing pawn to 3-4. If Uwate plays silver to 2-2, they plan to play pawn to 3-4 and silver to 3-3 next to form a good formation. To stop this, it is also important for Shitate to quickly play pawn to 3-5. This forces Uwate's silver to move to 2-2 for defense, and the gold on 3-2 must also stay to protect the silver. As a result, Uwate's formation becomes restricted, and their development is slowed down. Shitate's next plan is to prepare an attack using the pawns advanced on the fourth and third files. It is easier to use the rook for attacks if it is moved to the third file. Also, before the battle begins, let's make the king's position stable. In this strategy, building a crab castle is common. Uwate prepares to attack by advancing the knight and pawns. Meanwhile, Shitate moves the red gold to 7-8, the silver to 6-8, the white gold to 5-8, and the king to 6-9 to complete the crab castle. This makes it easier to withstand Uwate's counterattack once the battle begins. Uwate now advances the silver and is about to attack. Shitate's formation becomes stable, so let's start attacking with pawn to 3-4. This move not only aims to exchange pawns, but also to change the rook's position. If Uwate defends with silver to 3-3, instead of pawn drop 3-3, then moving the rook back to 3-8 and attacking the third file with silver to 4-6 is severe, making it difficult for Uwate to defend. Against pawn drop 3-3, play rook to 3-6. This leads to knight to 3-7 as a follow-up move and follows a saying, attacking with rook, bishop, silver, and knight. Uwate plans to put pressure on the h-file to prepare for an attack with pawn to 7-5. By pushing the pawn on h5, Uwate can late attack with pawn to h6 after the silver advances to 7-5. Shitate should also move the silver forward to prepare for an attack. Uwate starts the attack with pawn to 7-5. Remember to defend with pawn drop 7-6 when the silver advances. If the silver captures this pawn, Shitate can trap it with pawn drop 7-7. Therefore, against pawn drop 7-6, Uwate has no choice but to reduce the silver, which also prevents Uwate's attack with pawn to h6. After the silver reduced to 6-4, Shitate can attack with pawn to 5-5, but this leads to an exchange of silvers for both sides. Instead, it is better to move the silver to 3-5 first and then attack with pawn to 4-4. Its attack aims to exchange gold and silver to weaken Uwate's defense. When Shitate's silver advances to 4-4, Uwate avoids the exchange of gold and silver by moving the gold to 5-2. At this point, it is important to keep attacking by jumping the knight. The rook, bishop, silver, and knight can all attack the 3-3 square, so Uwate can no longer stop the attack. Even if Uwate tries to drive back the silver with pawn draw 4-3, Shitate's attack, starting with knight takes 3-3 promo, succeeds. At the 3-3 square, Shitate has 4 attacking pieces, while Uwate is defending with only a gold, a silver, and a knight. According to the principle of the number-based attack, Shitate with more attacking pieces, Shitate will surely succeed. The pieces are exchanged at 3-3, and Shitate must also sacrifice the bishop. However, since the rook can promote as a result, Shitate's attack is successful. Uwate counterattacks with bishop draws 4-4. Against it, Shitate's rook takes 4-4 is a bad move, because the promoted rook will be captured. Therefore, promoted rook to 3-2, keeping the dragon inside Uwate's camp, is the best move. Uwate can promote the bishop, but silver draws 7-2 is the decisive move that brings Shitate into a winning position. If Uwate captures this silver with the king, Shitate can continue the attack with dragon takes 5-2, leaving Uwate in a difficult situation. In this way, in the two-piece drop strategy, Shitate first weakens Uwate's gold and silver pieces, builds a defensive formation with the crab castle, and creates an attacking formation using the rook, bishop, silver, and knight. This leads to a position that is easier for Shitate to win. If you would like to review the explanation of this video, I also recommend referring to my article. I have placed the Patreon link in this video description, so please feel free to access it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next Shogi video.